How many times have you considered giving up everything? How many times have you cried alone, in the dark, where no one could see? How many times have you asked yourself, why me? If you're hearing this now, it's not by chance. This message is for you. Yes, for you, the one who feels exhausted, who sees no way out, who feels their heart tightening and wonders if it's time to give up. But before you make any decision, listen to me until the end. Because this could be the word that changes everything. Have you ever felt like you were speaking to the walls when you prayed? Have you ever had the feeling that no matter how much you cried out, God didn't answer? That feeling of being alone, fighting against the world, while the heavens remain silent. That silence hurts. It weighs down on you. It creates anguish. And maybe right now, you're exactly there, silent with God, and your heart crying out for help. But let me tell you a truth that you may have forgotten in the midst of the pain. God's silence is never absence. God's silence is actually the greatest sign that He is doing something far bigger than you can imagine. It's just not ready to be revealed yet. Have you ever seen a tree growing beneath the earth? No. But the fact that you cannot see the roots growing doesn't mean they aren't. God works behind the scenes. He is weaving your story with invisible threads to your eyes, yet firmly held in His hands. That's how it was with Joseph, remember? Betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, wrongfully imprisoned. Everything seemed to be going wrong. God seemed silent. But what no one saw was what God had already prepared ahead of time, the throne of Egypt. If Joseph had given up along the way, he would have died as a slave. But because he kept going, even without understanding, he saw the promise fulfilled with his own eyes. How many times have you asked yourself, has God forgotten me? Have I sinned too much to be heard? Am I all alone in this? But what if I told you that He never left your side? That He's there, in your silence, in your hidden tears, in that single tear that falls when everyone else is asleep. You don't need to see to believe. You need to believe in order to see. Perhaps you're going through a difficult time. Maybe you've lost a loved one, are silently battling depression, struggling with a marriage in crisis, or facing a suffocating financial situation. And then you think, if God were with me, this wouldn't be happening. But Jesus, the very Son of God, also experienced the silence of the Father. In Gethsemane, sweating blood, He asked, Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me. And what did He hear in response? Silence. But that silence didn't mean abandonment. It meant purpose. It meant the plan was bigger than the temporary pain. And so is yours. Perhaps you just need to go through this dark valley to learn to hear God in a way you've never heard Him before. Not with your ears, but with your heart. You know that moment when everything seems to be falling apart? Maybe, right there, God is rebuilding your life, but in the right way. And do you know what's most beautiful? He's listening to you right now. Even if you're just thinking about praying, with no strength to speak. He already hears you. Even when you can only cry. He interprets each tear as a deep prayer. Because God doesn't just answer words. He responds to broken hearts. Perhaps, today, your prayer has turned into a sigh. And that's okay. He listens to sighs. Have you ever noticed that, in the most painful moments of life, people tend to vanish? It seems like friends disappear, family doesn't understand, the phone stops ringing. But God remains right there. Even in silence, He stays. You may not see it now, but He is holding on to what you can no longer hold. And if you are hearing this message right now, it's because He wants to remind you, you are not alone. Do not give up because of the silence. The greatest miracle of your life may be developing right this moment. And every pregnancy requires silence, waiting, patience. Have you ever seen a mother open her womb in the second month just because she cannot wait? Of course not. Because she knows that, even without seeing the baby every day, it is growing. And she waits. With pain, with discomfort, with anxiety. But she waits. This is how faith works too. It doesn't require you to see, only to trust. Trust that God is taking care of you, even when everything seems to be falling apart. You may not be hearing His voice right now, but one day you will understand why He was silent. And when that day comes, you will look back and thank Him for not giving up. So, I ask you, with all the love I can pour into these words, Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't surrender. God's silence has never been the end. In fact, it is the prelude to something extraordinary that is about to come. And if you are willing, I want to propose something to you. Over the next 7 days, before you sleep, close your eyes, take a deep breath and say with faith, even in silence, I trust you, Lord. Repeat this every day. You will start to notice that something begins to change within you. Perhaps your external situation remains the same. But your faith will begin to grow, and when faith grows, the impossible starts to move. Because God has never left you. He is only preparing you for something greater. Have you noticed how the greatest victories in life often come after the most painful moments? Have you observed that before something is born, there is always a time of pain, waiting, and darkness? Think with me, a seed only grows when it is buried. A diamond only forms under extreme pressure. Gold is only purified in fire. And life only comes after the pain of childbirth. That's why today I need to remind you of a truth that could change the way you see this difficult phase you are going through. The miracle always comes after the pain. You might feel like you're at the end of the line. Like there's no reason left to continue. You wake up tired, go to sleep exhausted, and the days pass like meaningless repetitions. And the thought of quitting becomes more and more present. But do you know what else? It is right here, at the point where the pain seems unbearable, that many miracles begin to take shape. The problem is that many people give up at this moment. They give up just before the new beginning. They give up when they were only one step away. And maybe you are just one step away from what you've dreamed of, but the pain is so great that your eyes can't see what's right there, just after the next bend. Can you remember how many times in life you wanted to stop, but didn't, and later thanked yourself for continuing? Do you remember that day when everything seemed lost, and a door opened where you least expected it? Well, the same God who was there, is here now. And He is telling you, hang on a little longer. I am still writing your story. The Bible is full of examples like this. David was anointed king while still young, but before he could sit on the throne, he was chased, humiliated, lived in caves, fleeing for survival. Do you think he never thought of giving up? But he kept going. And because he kept going, he saw the promise fulfilled. What you are experiencing right now may be just the valley of tears before the harvest. Remember what it says in Psalms 126 verse 5? Those who sow with tears will reap with joy. Have you ever cried so much that you thought there were no more tears? Have you tried so hard that you ran out of strength? Have you believed so much that today you feel foolish for still hoping? But listen. It is at the bottom of the pit where God often manifests the greatest new beginnings. Because it is when we have no one left, no way out, that we finally recognize, I am completely dependent on you, Lord. And then, He acts. Because true faith is born when everything human fails. How many people do you know who made it, but went through a true desert before that? How many mothers prayed for years for a son caught in drugs, and now testify to his transformation? How many men lost everything in business, and when they had nothing left, rebuilt from scratch with more wisdom, more maturity, more humility? How many women, betrayed and humiliated, are now restored, at peace, stronger than ever? Do you remember Thomas Edison? He tried thousands of times before getting the light bulb to work. Imagine if he had stopped at the 9,999th attempt. Maybe today the world would still be in the dark. But he didn't give up. And the result of his persistence lit up history. Your persistence can light up lives too. But first, you need to resist the urge to stop. And I know, it's hard to keep going when no one supports you. It's hard to fight when no one sees your effort. It's hard to believe when everything seems to be falling apart. But when everything falls apart, what remains is the foundation. And if your foundation is God, you can rebuild anything. So I want to challenge you. For the next 21 days, choose an area of your life where you thought about giving up. It could be your marriage, your studies, a project, your spiritual life, or even the will to live, and declare every day by faith, I will not stop. I will see my miracle happen. Write this down on a piece of paper. Stick it on your mirror. Say it out loud. Pray for it. Fight with everything you have. Because sometimes, what separates you from your miracle is not the size of your faith. It's your decision to keep going, even when everything seems lost. God is not impressed by beautiful words, but He is moved by hearts that persist. Those who keep marching, even while crying, even while wounded, even while tired. These are the ones who live the greatest testimonies. You may be hurt right now, but wounds heal. And every scar will tell a story of someone who went all the way and won. So take a deep breath. Lift your head up. And remember, the pain you feel right now might be exactly what is preparing the ground for the victory you will witness later. And when that happens, you will look back and understand, I'm glad I didn't give up. There are days when you look at yourself in the mirror and don't recognize who you see. Days when you don't feel good enough, not beautiful enough, not strong enough, not smart enough. Days when you blame yourself for everything, for what you've done, for what you haven't done, for the wrong choices, for the mistakes that seem unforgivable. And then comes that silent thought, destructive. I am a failure. I will never make it. There's no hope for me. But today, I need to tell you, looking into your eyes, even if you're on the other side of the screen, you are not defined by what has happened to you. You are not the abandonment. You are not the betrayal. You are not the failure. You are not the rejection. You are not the mistake you made. You are who God says you are. How many times have you diminished yourself because of something someone said about you? How many times have you believed you didn't deserve another chance because of your past? But listen closely. Your value doesn't decrease because of your mistakes. Just like a banknote doesn't lose its worth just because it's been crumpled or stepped on. God doesn't see you the way the world sees you. While the world judges you by what you've done, God calls you by what you can still become. While the world points the finger and says, guilty, God extends His hand and says, child. Remember the Samaritan woman? 5 husbands. Living with a man who wasn't hers. Rejected, humiliated, isolated. But Jesus went to her. Right to her. And instead of condemning her, He offered her living water. He saw beyond the mistakes. He saw the heart. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to define ourselves by our failures? I am a loser. I am a problem. I am a burden to others. But what if everything you think isn't true? What if you're just too hurt to see what really lies within you? Have you ever seen a broken vase? In Japan, there is an art called kintsugi, where they take broken vases and repair the pieces with gold. Do you know what happens? They become even more beautiful and valuable than before they were broken. Because the scars become part of the beauty. And perhaps God is doing this with you right now. Taking every piece of you, every trauma, every pain, every fall, and rebuilding something even stronger, with marks that don't hide your story, but reveal your overcoming. Think about it, how many people who are now role models, inspirations, have gone through painful stories? Oprah Winfrey, for example, was abused as a child, rejected, fired from her first TV job because they said she wasn't suited for it. Today, she is one of the most influential women in the world. Not because her life was easy, but because she chose not to define herself by the pain. You can make that choice too. Choose to rise. Choose to start again. Choose to stop calling yourself by your mistakes and start seeing yourself through God's eyes. Perhaps you have failed as a parent, as a spouse, as a child, as a friend. But even so, God hasn't given up on you. He still believes in your ability to change. To rewrite your story. To be a light, even after having lived in darkness. And perhaps the greatest prison of your life isn't the situation outside, but the chains you've placed on yourself. The labels you've accepted to carry. The voices from the past that still scream within you. But today is the day to break those chains. To say, I am not what others say. I am not what pain has made me believe. I am who God says I am. Did you know that in the Bible, God changed the names of several people? Abram became Abraham. Jacob became Israel. Simon became Peter. Why? Because when God transforms, He not only heals the past, He redefines the future. And He wants to do that with you. It doesn't matter where you've fallen, how many times, or how deep you've gone. You can still be restored. You can still be an example. You can still inspire others. Do you know what the enemy fears most? It's not your fall. It's you getting up. Because those who fall become vulnerable. But those who get up after falling become unshakable. You don't have to wait for circumstances to change to start seeing yourself with dignity. You just need to believe that you are still worthy of God's love. And He has never taken that love away from you. Today, I want to challenge you to change the way you see yourself. For the next 30 days, every time you look in the mirror, declare, I am loved. I am forgiven. I am strong. I am a new beginning. Do this even without feeling it. Because faith starts as a seed, but it grows with repetition, with action, with trust. And you will notice that the reflection in the mirror begins to change. Not the outside, but the inside. And when that happens, you will understand that your identity is not in the pain, but in the promise. You are a son. You are a daughter. And no one can take that away from you. There are times when all we want is a clear answer from God. An audible voice saying, go this way, do this, calm down, it will be okay. But the truth is that God doesn't always reveal Himself like that. He calls us to live by faith. And faith, my brother, my sister, is not having all the answers. Faith is continuing even when the only thing you have is the certainty that God is in control, even when it seems like He isn't. Have you ever tried to walk in the dark, only trusting your memory of where things are around you? It's not easy, is it? It's scary. It's uncertain. But when we know the way, we go. That's how it is walking with God. You won't always see. You won't always understand. But if you know His voice, you follow. You keep going. Peter walked on water. Yes, an ordinary human being like you and me walked on water. But only as long as he kept his eyes fixed on Jesus. When he started looking at the wind, the waves, the danger, he sank. And how many times are we like that? We start with faith. But then comes the diagnosis, the overdue bill, the heartbreak, the bankruptcy. And all that was faith turns into fear. All that was certainty turns into doubt. But listen carefully, what sinks you are not the problems. What sinks you is doubt. You may be surrounded by 1,000 difficulties, but if you have faith, you float. You get through. You endure. How many times have you thought, I don't have enough faith? But Jesus Himself said that if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Have you ever seen a mustard seed? It's tiny. And that means that God doesn't require gigantic faith. He just wants real faith. Faith that defies logic. Faith that says God is good, even when everything is bad. Faith that trusts even without understanding. Today, perhaps you are going through the darkest phase of your life. Perhaps right now you're surrounded by unpaid bills, family disputes, wounds from your past, and inner anxieties that eat away at your peace. Maybe you look around and think, there's simply no way out. But let me lovingly and honestly assure you, there truly is. And the key is faith. Faith doesn't make your problems disappear, but it completely transforms how you face them. It shifts your perspective on life itself. Think about a powerful testimony you've heard and thought, I wish I had a story like that. You know, significant testimonies come from overcoming immense battles through faith. Take Nick Vujicic, for example. Born without arms or legs, can you even fathom how many reasons he had to quit? How many reasons he could have found to complain, blame life, or be angry with God? Yet, he chose a life of faith. Today, he travels the globe, inspiring millions, proving that the impossible surrenders when confronted by faith. And if he managed to do it, why wouldn't you? Perhaps your life feels shattered right now. But God doesn't build castles upon completed walls, He rebuilds from the ground up. Upon faith. Upon surrender. Upon an open heart. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to trust. Because God isn't human, He doesn't lie, nor does He begin a task only to abandon it halfway through. Faith means looking at a medical report and still declaring, even so, I trust you. Faith means seeing an overdue bill, perhaps £100, and still declaring, even so, the Lord is my provider. Faith is enduring grief and still proclaiming, God is still good. Faith is stepping forward, even when there's no visible ground beneath your feet. That's precisely how the Red Sea parted. The people stepped into the water before the waters parted. And perhaps God is waiting for your step of faith before opening the sea in front of you. So I want to offer you an invitation, a challenge, really. For the next 15 days, pick a specific issue that's robbing you of your peace. It could be something you've prayed about countless times, something that seems utterly hopeless. Every day, declare aloud, Lord, I can't see the way forward, but I trust in you. I walk by faith, not by sight. Write this down in a notebook. Pray these words. Notice how something begins to shift within you. Because sometimes, God's greatest answer isn't changing our circumstances, it's changing our hearts. And when your heart changes, everything else follows. The pain might remain painful, but faith makes it bearable. The waiting may still feel long, but faith gives you the strength to keep walking, one day at a time. The external situation may remain unchanged, but you'll no longer be its prisoner. You become someone who doesn't live by sight, but by belief. Trust this. God honors those who choose faith. God reveals himself in faith. And those who commit to living by faith will never find themselves disappointed.